You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast, episode number 29. Today, I'm talking with my dear friend, Judith Gaton, and we came on together to do a joint podcast where we're going to talk all things decluttering and style and closets and clothing and so much more. You guys are in for a treat. So let's go. You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they can cherish what truly matters.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this really special episode of two podcasts being recorded all at one time. Me and my friend Sarah were like, we should do podcasts. And we said, yeah. And then we decided to do a call. And then now here we are. So
here we are.
I will introduce myself. I'll let Sarah introduce herself. And then we'll dive into all the things, style and closets and letting go of the things that, you don't need. So that's today's topic of our podcast. I'm Judith Gaton. I am the founder of the Modern Charm School, and I have a podcast called Style Masterclass. Sarah, introduce yourself.
Sarah Mueller here, founder of the Decluttering Club, where we teach people how to let go so they have time and space for what matters most. And, Judith, you know this, right? But I feel like there's so much synergy between what I do and what you do, and vice versa.
Yes, we were walking around Disneyland together and we were like riffing of like, yeah, and then this, and then this. And then we just kind of looked at her. I was like, oh, hi, friend. Like, I made a new friend.
That was the first time we got together, right? We had not met before then.
Yeah, I think we met like in a group, but I don't think we've actually like talked to each other.
That's right. We did. I'm like, how am I not your best friend? I don't know. I am. Wow. At least I think so.
Yeah, but like the Haunted Mansion was like our moment to like really bond over all things closets and decluttering and style and all the things. So I'm glad that we're doing this today. I think this is great.
I know. It's amazing because I feel like our closets are such a metaphor for our entire lives, aren't they?
Yes.
Like we've got all of these, there's like the graveyard of the Haunted Mansion of the clothing that we think we have to fit into and that we wish we could wear or we wish we liked it, and it's like, oh my gosh, why is there so much wrapped up in what, the clothes that we have in our homes that we may or may not put on our bodies?
Where do you think it is? Because like I think we have similar theories, but I want to hear from your perspective as the Decluttering Club queen. She's the queen of her peeps. It's amazing to see how they love her. Like, what is your theory on why we have closet graveyards full of things that we never wear?
I have a lot of experience with this personally. Like it's kind of crazy because I've gone through my clothes, and when we started working together, I told you, oh, I don't really need to go through my closet. I've done that. And turns out I actually did need to go through the closet, and there was more. I think like our closet is like a reflection of, all of the hopes and dreams in the past. And it's kind of private, right? So it's not like your kitchen that you're looking at all day, every day. But it's like, oh, that's the sweatshirt I wore in college. And, that those are my favorite jeans. And now they're falling apart or, this doesn't fit. And there's like, everything is just, it's like such a metaphor. And I think also like our clothes are like an extension of our bodies. Right. And so we identify so closely with them in ways that maybe we identify less with our things that are not like clothing. I think that maybe it's like an extension of our personality. So that makes it hard, I think.
I think so. I think especially for modern humans, like unlike other humans before us, where like you had one change of clothing and it was very perfunctory, like we had to keep you warm, we had to, make sure you had what you needed out in the field, or if you were a wealthy human who happened to have multiple changes of clothes, like they were for certain things, right? We wore, certain vestments for certain activities, blah, blah, blah. Whereas modern humans, we're kind of weirdos in that our clothing is very activity driven. And we love our activities. So we have our gym clothes, we have our lounge clothes, we have our pajamas, we have our work clothes, we have our after work clothes. Like I have a client right now, I think she changes at least 6 times a day if she's walking the dog, and then she comes home, and then if she has to be Zoom ready, and then she has to go like, we are kind of funny creatures in that regard. So I think a lot of the roles that we play and our identities in those roles get wrapped up in the clothing we associate with them. And then we end up with a closet full of clothing that doesn't quite make sense because our roles change so much. Our hobbies change, our bodies change. So it's like we have clothing for the version of us that existed sometimes 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago, last year. And that person doesn't exist anymore. And she's not fulfilling the same, or he or she or they are not fulfilling the same roles they used to fulfill. So we have clothing that doesn't quite make sense for who we are in this particular moment. And I think that contributes a lot to why we have these graveyards of time traveling closets.
That's so true, right? Like you and I have talked about that, like this is clothing for like 30-year-old Sarah. And like not so much that like I'm older now, but like I'm not the same person. And I didn't like my wardrobe didn't keep up. Like I'm not the same person that I was even 2 years ago. But so like I'm wondering why I feel a little bit off when I'm trying to put something on, whether or not it fits, like that's a kind of a different discussion. But like we forget that sometimes like if we don't maintain the wardrobe and doesn't keep up with who we are like inside with our identity, then it's gonna feel like wrong. But that's hard to let go of sometimes.
I think so, but it's not impossible. So for anyone listening, we love you. I just want you to know this is not an impossible feat, and it might feel hard. And I think, and tell me if this happens in your community too. Sometimes I have clients who are like, this shouldn't feel so hard. This should
Mm-hmm.
feel easy. This is so dumb. This is so
Right.
silly. It's clothes. And I'm like, but it's obviously really important to you. Like, why are we belittling what feels hard for you? So I don't know if clients present that way to you, and what do you tell them when that happens?
Oh yeah. I mean, like it shouldn't feel hard. Like, why shouldn't it feel hard? Like, what if it's just hard? Like, why can't we let things be hard? Like, maybe it is hard. Like, why do you think it should be easy to get rid of your wedding dress? like, like honestly, right? Or whatever, like, why is that like, what if that's okay? Yeah, I think that's really true, right? And you're absolutely right. Like, I think sometimes just noticing what's going on, then all of a sudden, like, it's like a light switch goes off and you go, oh, that's why. That's why I'm attached to that. Or that's why I should let that go. That's why I want to let that go. Like just talking it through really like illuminates like what's actually happening.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think there are memories tied to things. Like I'm keeping my wedding dress. She's not going
Mhm.
anywhere. Like I love her. She's beautiful. She's blush
Yeah.
pink and has all this hand beading. Like, why would I ever get rid of her? She's with me for life, right? So, but I don't store her where I store my regular everyday clothing. And I think that sometimes getting our clients to wrap their arms around the fact that, like, if it's a memento, if it's truly like something that you have all these memories tied up with, but you're not actually wearing anymore, then we move it from where our getting ready everyday clothing is. So what do you advise clients who have like the
Mhm.
band t-shirt or the whatever
Mm.
memorabilia from that time of their lives?
Yeah. Well, I love that you said I'm not getting rid of wedding dress. Yes, like we have permission. There's no rules here. Like it's okay to keep whatever you want. You want to keep the band t-shirt collection? I'm all in. Let's just keep it on purpose, right? We have a lot of people, sometimes they like to make like, they'll do like a t-shirt quilt. I've seen like really cool things with like men's ties. Like you can do kind of cool upcycling just to like preserve them, right? Because if something is important to you, let's really honor that, right? And are we honoring it the way we're handling it right now, or something more that we want to do with it? We love doing that kind of thing. And also, like if you're keeping 100 t-shirts, like maybe they're not all amazing to you. Maybe you could find your favorite, 5 or 10, and then they're actually your favorites, right? Like that happens a lot, I think, for my clients, is that they think everything is special, but when they take a look, they're like, oh, actually really it's just that one and this one, and then these I'm not so attached to. But like until they give themselves permission to keep something, then they feel like someone's going to take their things away, and so then they just hold on to everything without like actually taking a look at what they want to keep.
Yeah. I actually
And
want to ask you this,
what do
because
you think?
I just came up with, I think like 3 clients all in one week use the same phrase. And I was so
Mm.
fascinated by this. We were talking about getting rid of, in one case, somebody's jeans, in another case, somebody's like marathon t-shirts, because that, you know, if you're a runner, you get all those free swag tees. And I forget what the third person, they had another stack of something, we were talking about decluttering. And they all use the same phrase, because I was like, you can keep it if you want, like you have my permission. And each of them said this: that's a cop out. If I keep
Oh.
this, right? That's how I was like, oh, that's juicy. So I'm curious, from one, you know,
Oh.
from one person to another who does this, right? Like from one coach to another, what would your response be?
Oh.
Because I thought that was so juicy. I was like, 3 of you in one week use the same phrase? Like, something's in the air. Something's in the air.
Interesting. It's a
Wow.
cop out. Could be a cop out. I think if you're choosing them on purpose, then I'm all in, right? That's what I always tell my people. I'm like, if you're going to choose this on purpose, then I'm in. Let's go. But don't just tell me that you can't let everything go, that you can't let anything go, right? Like, what is everything? Like, it's completely vague, right? But if you're not going to take a look and like make an intentional decision, then I think it is a little bit of a cop out, right? Like, I just want you to choose these things on purpose. And then, yes, amazing. Let's keep them because we want them, right? Because how do you know if you want them if you haven't actually looked at them? Like, here's interesting, right? Are you willing to look at it and ask yourself the question? Because maybe you don't want it. Maybe you do, but you're not, if you're not going to take a look, then you're not really being honest with yourself because maybe you're afraid of the answer. Maybe the answer is, I don't actually want it. I want to let it go, but I'm afraid to go there. So I think maybe there's something going on there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. The one person in particular, I just slowed down and I was like, what do you want here? And she
Mm-hmm.
was really honest. She's like, I want to get rid of it. I joined this so that I could
Mm,
clean out my closet, so I could wear clothing that actually fits me. And it was such a beautiful, honest coaching moment, because I slowed down enough to ask her, and then she was game enough to listen to her own internal answer and tell me what she wanted. And that was such a cool moment. And I adore that client. She's probably going to be listening to this because she listens to every episode. So shout out to you. You know who you are. Love you so much. But it was a very cool coaching moment with her. And then the second one, she wanted to keep the stuff. So I think it could go either way, right? Like, we pause long enough to give her space to be like, actually, I'm not ready yet. I'm just not
mhm.
ready yet. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, my job is not to pry anything out of you, to continue to hunting
Yes.
of your cold dead hands. Like, that is not
Hmm.
what we're doing here. But like you, I want it to be intentional. And then the third person, she wanted something completely different. Like, it was we went somewhere totally where I didn't expect, because we paused long enough to ask her. But you said something that I think is important, which is like the honesty piece.
Hmm.
Like, having those moments with our clients and saying, like, what do you want? Have you actually stopped to look? Have you actually reflected on that? So how do you bring out
Yeah.
those moments in your clients, when, especially if it gets a little
Yeah.
tense, right? And someone says like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not ready, or I don't want to yet, or whatever the case may be.
I think sometimes people kind of want they think they're supposed to do one thing, right? I should get rid of this or I should keep or whatever. Right? Like there's a way. And then when we don't like reinforce that, it's like they have nothing to fight against. And so then it feels like it's scary, right? Like being honest is really scary because then you have to like, what do I want? And so I think that's what's kind of going on there. Um, in terms of just like how like now I don't have someone telling me what to do. So now I have to decide for myself. And I don't know what's gonna happen when I go there. I don't know if I'm gonna like the answer. I think that's at play, when we're having that discussion. And it's scary, right? Like it's kind of terrifying, I think, to say to like, if I'm okay with keeping this thing that I think I'm supposed to get rid of, then what does that mean about me?
Mm,
You know, or vice versa.
yeah. I
Interesting.
I think that's really interesting, especially when it's gifts.
Oh yeah. That's a
Like,
good
I'm
one.
supposed to, and every holiday season, I do some variation of a podcast episode with like You're allowed to return things. You're allowed to say no, thank you. You're allowed to give things away. Like if you really can't return it or give it back to the person or tell them no, they're going to buy you something anyway. Like
Mhm.
you're allowed to donate it. Totally fine. And it's funny because every year I'll get a comment. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. But I think
People, yeah,
especially,
yeah.
especially in the realm of gifts, it's like we're heading towards the holidays when this podcast episode will originally air. If you're listening to some point in the future, just know that sort of on my brain at this moment in time is like, I should want to keep this thing, even though I didn't buy it, I didn't want it. Because what does it say about me if I give it away or I return it, that I'm ungrateful or whatever number of things come up for
Mm.
human
Yeah.
brain?
So what do you say about that? Like if someone's like, I feel ungrateful or I don't want to hear ungrateful. How do people
I think
reconcile that one?
I think it's more ungrateful to keep the item and not use it.
Mm.
Like our items and objects in our house, our clothing in particular, right? It's meant to be used. Like that is its life's purpose, is to be used by you in some form or fashion. So why not let it fulfill its purpose? And if
Mhm.
we're not actually going to use it, we're not actually being grateful and honoring this gift or the intention behind the gift. We're just
Mhm.
keeping stuff for the sake of keeping stuff so that we can keep an appearance of someone who enjoys this thing. You really don't. It's a lie. So I
Mm.
think the more honest approach, the actual grateful approach, is to find someone who will use the object. And that may not be you, and that's okay.
Mm. Oh, that's good. That is really good. And that's a big deal. Like that is it's a big struggle for a lot of people. Now, I want to ask you because I know you have some really, really brilliant thoughts about like what do we do if our bodies have changed and we have clothes that we really would like to fit into and it's just not working anymore? Like how do you like work with clients and, kind of like come to terms with that?
I I love having this discussion. I have this about several times a week. I had it last night actually. So I think the important part is we have to address the human that exists right now. Like that's just the most
Mm.
important like first premise. Because you from last week or yesterday or 5 years ago
Mhm.
or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, like that person's not here anymore. We only have a you that
Mhm.
exists right now. So that's literally the only person we can dress.
Mm.
So, because it's the only person we can dress, then we get to look at our closets from that perspective. The human body that's right in front of me right now, like what fits this body, what doesn't fit this body, what life am I actually living, and what clothings
Mm.
actually fit my current lifestyle, because I can only physically dress the person that exists right now.
Mhm.
And there's going to be clothes that get to stay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Like, presumptively, you're getting dressed at some point during the day. So you have some clothing that fits you. And
Right.
then right, the rest of the stuff, if you're not ready, if you're truly not ready to donate it, to pass it along, then store it beautifully. Like
Mhm.
create your own museum archive, right? We're going to treat it
Archive,
lovingly.
yes.
Yeah, we're going to wash it. We're going to button up the buttons, do up the zippers, store things properly, beautifully in the proper storage containers, because not everything needs to be stored in plastic. It's really bad for a lot of fabrics. Like
Mm.
we're going to store it beautifully so that it's ready for a future version of you to actually wear and enjoy. What I have found though is for a lot of my clients, they cannot be bothered with most of their shit because it's just not that great.
Okay, right here.
Sarah
I
just raised her
you
hand,
told
by the
me
way.
you told me about the archive, and I was like, that's a great idea. I want to do that. And I did set some things aside, and I was like, I should go buy, like a nice linen box, and I have not done that yet. So I'm not quite sure if I'm gonna, I probably will keep some things, but it's one thing to like an idea, and it's another to be willing to execute the idea. Right? Like, am
Yes.
I really that excited about that idea? I haven't decided yet. Maybe I should give myself a deadline.
Yeah. I mean, we could pick one right now.
We could pick one. Right. How about Christmas Day? Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, you know what? Actually, that would be really good because I think I will buy some boxes. Like, I think I could do that. All right. Yeah.
I,
Christmas Day,
I'm glad we
some
had this
boxes.
discussion. This is good. But it brings you raised something that I want to hear from you about a little bit as well. Is like we could give you all these great ideas, right? If you listen to our
Mhm.
podcast, if you follow us, like we're chock full of amazing ideas.
Yes, we
Doing
are.
it is something completely different.
Hmm.
So how do you get clients from the place where they're like, oh, Sarah, that's brilliant, to
Mhm.
actually taking action.
Oh, that's good. I think once people are in motion, it's easier, right? So if they're in the program, let's say they're in my program or people in your program, like that, now they're in motion and they can stay in motion. But if they're not, like they have to commit, and there's different ways to commit, right? You can just make a public commitment. You can say out loud, "I will," right? Our brains want to be consistent. So if you tell people, "Hey, I'm going to clean out my closet," and here's when, right? All of a sudden, oh dear, now, now I got to do it, right? And that's why people don't like to make a public commitment, because they know that then they got to follow through. But like you get them to commit in some form, whether it's by, with money, with time, right? We're doing a challenge right now. We're getting ready to do the challenge. People aren't paying with money, but they're paying with time, right? So if they put in the time, then they're going to be more willing to do the thing, right? If I just send them a video and then send them on their way, then it's easy for them to be like, I'll do that later, which is kind of what I did with the clothing archive, right? So like some form of commitment, if you can, even if you can get people to say, yes, I will do that, even on a live video, yes, I'm in is a commitment. So I think that's how I do it. And then making it fun, right? Like we like to make things fun. When things are fun, then we're gonna follow through. So we love that. It's a good
And
strategy
you
for
do
us.
things in community. So tell me more about that piece,
Mhm.
because I think that's partly, I think the fun part of like doing a closet clean or decluttering in community
Yes.
is different than doing it just alone in your house. So
Oh my
tell me a
gosh,
little bit more
right?
how you roll in your world.
Yes. We love, like, it's so weird, Judith. I'm not a social person, right? Like, I am not the life of the party. I am not, I'm not, I don't consider myself very social, but I love bringing people together. So, like, maybe I don't know if I'm behind the scenes or
You're
whatever.
this
I
connector
think
of
it is,
people.
yeah, it's so much fun to me to have people come together and do something together and to see that happen. And so that's the way that we work, right? Like we love our groups. I love to when people talk to each other, right? Like they don't even need me then. That's like the most amazing thing. If my team is holding calls and I'm not on them, I think that's like a miracle. Like, my business is running and I'm not attending. Like this is amazing. So we just love to do things in groups. Like, and my members, they make up all kinds of fun things. We do bingo and we do, I don't know, Mad Libs and challenges. Like everyone's just up for fun. Music. They started wearing, like, you'll get a kick out of this. Um, so we do what we call miracle marathons, decluttering miracle marathons. So it's like a 3 to 4 hour Zoom call where people are decluttering together. And people started dressing up for these calls.
Oh
So they
my
were
God, I
wearing
love this so much.
tiaras. We're wearing tiaras on these calls. And everyone's like, oh, I need to get a tiara so I can come to the call. It's hilarious. But how is that? Like,
Oh, that
instead of
is
saying,
fun.
okay, you are going to get locked in your closet, in your room all weekend, you're going to slave away, you're going to try on all your clothes, or hey, come to a marathon. You should probably bring a tiara, get the crock pot ready because you're not going to have any time to make dinner and we're going to have a party.
I
Hilarious.
love that. Oh my God.
So fun.
Okay. We're gonna have to adopt a tiara thing. I mean, we would borrow that. Declutter clubbers. We probably are gonna borrow that from you all. We
Do
bow down
it.
to that. I think that is amazing. I just love.
Tiaras and feather boas as well.
Oh, okay. We can't forget the feather boa. Oh my God, I love that. Like, can we let this be fun? So, like in Modern Charm School, we do declutterathons. So it's,
Mhm.
I think, a similar vibe.
Yes.
Ours lasts an hour and a half, and
Hmm.
we work in a sprint, which is like 10 minutes, something you fucking need to do, and you just
Hmm.
and it will take you 10 minutes. And then we do
Yes.
more of a marathon, and then we do a cleanup part because we don't
Hmm.
like to leave messes. And then I'm
Nice.
DJ. So we have a really amazing playlist. We
Oh,
love to
nice.
create playlists in our community. So we have one that is like a lot of like Latin music that I grew up to, but it's like high energy. And I've had
Mm-hmm.
clients like, oh my God, this music's like crack. Like suddenly super energized. Like the playlist is available to you anytime because there's something about knowing other folks, even in their own homes,
Hmm.
worlds apart, are with you. They're doing it with you.
Yes. Yes. I call it time travel, right? Like you can even watch the replay and you're still communing with people. This is time travel. Like,
Oh, I love that.
I think I'm a little far out but it's true, right? Like people can watch our podcast and hang out with us next week.
Yep.
And why not, right? Like our energy is coming through the interwebs, right? And like let's have fun. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's have the music. Like, why not? Like it could turn something that's a chore into an amazing, like a party, basically. And then we want to get it done, right? That thing that we were
Right.
dreading, we're actually looking forward to it. Like it's complete 180. How amazing is that?
Yeah. More of that in our worlds, like letting things be fun, letting things
Mm-hmm.
be to the extent that they can be, even if it feels emotionally hard, like the physicality
Mm-hmm.
of it is quite easy. Like we're sticking stuff in bags, we're putting things in boxes, like
Mm-hmm.
not any, like for most part, depending on what you're decluttering, like it can be easy if we let it be. Oh my gosh, if we let it be.
Can be easier anyway, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Changes everything. It really does. And then we feel good. That's what when you get dressed in something that feels good, changes your whole life,
Yeah. Or
right?
walking into your closet that's cleared out in the
Mm-hmm.
morning. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like when I have like really decluttered something, I've cleaned something and I walk into space and I have that like big, like you could feel the juju is different, right?
Well, and the cool thing about doing your closet too is that it's for you. Right? It's not for the rest of the family. I mean, if you have a partner, maybe you share a closet, but otherwise, like it's not the kitchen, it's not the living room, whatever. It's just for you. And like it's a little bit of a secret special, like, yeah, like aren't we worth that? I
Yeah.
think we are.
Actually, I want to talk about this because I find that sometimes my clients are keen to do the other rooms, but their
Mhm.
closets are like sort of the last on the list.
Yep.
And like, what say you about starting there?
Mm. Well, that's an interesting question. Yeah, we have a program we run from time to time. It's called the 28-day reboot, and we do 4 different areas of the home. We leave the closet for last. It's so emotional, right? Like, so we like to get our feet wet, in some of the easier areas that people do, like people have to give themselves permission to do the closet. So we do save that for last, but I mean, doing it first is like that is like a statement of, hey, I I'm worth my time. I'm worth my time. It reminds me what you said a couple different times about like you should have nice underwear, right? Like nobody's gonna see it. It's for every day. And I think about that all the time. Like I don't want any of the janky panties, right? Because and I want to know that like I took care of myself. Like I matters what I put on, not just what other people are gonna benefit from, my kitchen looking nice. Like it starts with us, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're like, where do you normally encourage clients to start?
We usually encourage them to start in the kitchen or the bathroom. Kitchen is great because you spend a lot of time there. Bathroom is great because it's contained and it's usually a smaller space, and there's usually like lots of empty bottles and makeup that nobody likes. So they're kind of easier.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because I will normally start people in their underwear drawer as their
Mhm.
easy, like quick
Mhm.
win, because
Yeah.
typically there's not a whole lot of like sunk cost craziness or
Right.
like
Attachment. Maybe we're not
attachment.
super attached to our our old undies. Maybe a little bit.
Well, it depends. I had one client who her water broke in a particular pair of underwear and she was like, I am not getting rid of these. I was like, okay, well then we put them with your mementos and I would leave a note. So if your children find them when you're gone, we can explain
They'll
why you
know
have
why.
a random pair of panties in a box.
That's hilarious.
They might want to know like, whatever happened in these because they might have some questions. And she's just like, no, I want to keep them. That's weird. I'm like, I'm just, you can keep them, but we're not going to keep them in your underwear drawer because you don't wear them anymore. Like we'll put them in. Let's
Right.
just
They
explain
deserve
it.
their own place of honor.
Yeah, right. Like we're keeping them. So like sometimes, yes, there's some attachment, but there's less so. And then
Mhm.
because there's even less so in the makeup drawer, typically I will say like
Mhm.
if you decluttered everything else,
Mm.
like science experiments that are your old mascaras, we could get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people feel bad, right? About like, oh, that was really expensive, or, I thought it was going to make me look 10 years younger and it doesn't, like there's a little of that going on, but I think it's different than clothes. Like, I think we definitely get more attached to favorite items.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. What's your favorite, like, thing to do, like, piece of advice for your clients when you're working with them and, in decluttering their wardrobes and just like feeling amazing and how they get dressed?
I think the analogy that has worked the most for my clients across like all the demographics, the different women who've come to me is thinking of yourself as like the leading lady. Now, I coach primarily women, so that's why that analogy works for them, but leading person, leading man, whatever works for you. But the leading lady of their closets, right? So, like every good movie that's being created requires wardrobing and costuming. And as a leading lady, like we have to make sure it's on point. So, all of the clothing is auditioning for you because I think we
Yes.
live our lives thinking like we have to conform our bodies and change our shapes and our weights and our sizes to like hopefully the clothes will pick us. They're inanimate objects. That's not how it
That's
works.
true. Yes.
So if everything's auditioning for you, it puts you in this posture of like empowerment. It puts you in this posture of confidence. And I also think it makes the decision process so much easier. So like for this move, this scene in this movie that we're creating that is your
Mm-hmm.
life, like what does the leading lady say, like what makes the cut? And it's so funny to see
Mm-hmm.
my clients take on that like little diva persona suddenly, and they're like, oh yeah, no, none of this makes the audition. I'm like, okay, well that was easy, like thank you for letting us know. It
Yeah.
also makes shopping a lot easier, like the clothing has to
Oh,
make the audition or it just doesn't come home.
mm, so good, right? Like, did you make the cut or not?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm like we would just had to go in a different direction. Like it's so like the draw,
Yeah.
there's such
Yeah.
less drama around it than there would be if you're trying to like, oh, it's because I don't fit in it, my body shape, something's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
No, it didn't make the audition. Something's wrong with it, not you.
Mm, that's so good. 100%. Yeah. Well, and a lot of people say to me, well, I'll have nothing to wear if I let go of things I don't like. And that could be an exaggeration. But it's kind of people think, right? And people are real reluctant a lot of the time to go and try things on. Do you have some tips for like how can we go shopping if we haven't had a lot of success? And okay, now we're looking, yes, okay, we're gonna audition the clothes, but what if, like, how do we navigate that, especially for people who haven't done a lot of shopping lately?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of shopping is online these days. And if you live
Mhm.
in a body that's taller or shorter or, fatter, just for lack of a better way of putting it, if you're in a plus size body, they might not
Mhm.
have your clothing in store, right? So they typically don't
Mhm.
carry talls, they don't carry petites, or they don't carry plus sizes in store. So you have to just get into the process of shopping online
Mhm.
and making it fun, kind of like we said with our ways of decluttering, right? Like call a buddy, get in community, have your own pretty woman wardrobe moment where we like turn on music, we
Mhm.
put on a nice candle, our room is clean, the mirror we're looking into has been Windex and is shiny. Like make the experience nice for yourself, because so many of the experiences a lot of clients have had, at least in my world, like they've had terrible, terrible shopping experiences where they've had weird interactions with salespersons and just felt really miserable. So even if you decide to go shopping in person, like bring a playlist, bring your own snacks and water, like
Mhm.
put something on the floor, bring your own mat if you want. Like you can make the experience better for yourself, because I think
Mhm.
that's part of the problem is like dressing rooms are not that great or online shopping doesn't feel that great. Like you can improve the experience, number one, by little tweaks. And then number two, you get to take the pressure off of yourself to have to buy anything.
Mhm.
It's often when we're going shopping and we're like, but you have to, you did all this, you have to buy something. And it's like
Mhm.
literally if nothing passed the audition, nothing passed the audition. So let's just take the
Mhm.
pressure off ourselves. Like we're going in and we're seeing what is. And if we find
Mhm.
something that makes the cut, awesome, it gets to come home. And we just allow ourselves the joy of the process of it versus like the stringent, you have to walk away with something or this
Mhm.
was a failed experiment.
Yes. Oh, that's so good, right? Like, how can we have fun? How can we make this more enjoyable, especially if it's been kind of like awful?
Yeah.
Like maybe something little and permission to not buy anything.
Permission to not buy it. And here's the thing, sometimes we need stylists to help us find brands that we didn't know existed, or introduce us to things that would work better for us because we've only shopped at the same 3 stores our whole life. Like, so sometimes it's okay also to call in outside help. Just like when you declutter, like maybe you need some outside help. Like maybe you need community. Maybe you need someone to show you some things you had never considered before. And like, there's no shame in asking for help either.
Oh my gosh, you opened my eyes. Like I've had so much fun shopping from the ideas that you sent my way. Oh my God. It's been amazing. Like things I never would have tried on. I just ordered them, Love your program. So good. You do need that outside eye sometimes.
Yeah. And she has a very cute pair of jeans on today that fit her beautifully. Just saying. Just saying. So what about you? What advice would you give to folks who are just like starting? Like, what's a good entry point for them to get going?
Yeah, we like to just start really small. Like I think people put so much pressure on themselves. We got to clean up the house, we got to get rid of all this stuff. Right. And then they burn out, they overwork, they freak out, they freeze, right? Any of those things, and none of those things are useful. Right. I like to say, if you're going to declutter, like this is something that you're going to do regularly and you're going to need to maintain. So let's just relax. Let's take a minute. Let's learn how to do this. There's no rush. And how can we fit this into your life? Like, how can this just become part of the things that you do? We call that passive decluttering, wherein people get to the point where they literally will, they'll be putting on their makeup in the morning and they'll realize, oh, don't like this color, into the trash. And it literally takes no time, takes no effort, and they just let something go, right? It's like a beautiful thing. So I think really starting really, really small, we call it 10-minute miracles. Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes? And then building up from there. And just like, this is not a once and done. You're not just going to do this one time and then never have to think about it again. So like do it in a way that's like sustainable for your life. Then you're going to be willing to keep going, right? If it's fun and if it's sustainable, then you'll be able to maintain it. If you try to like cram it all through, you're probably going to hate it. And then you're going to end up in a worse situation than you were before. So that doesn't help anyone.
Oh, that's so good. Passive declutter. Like, that's so good. Because I think it's something I do, but I'm just not thinking, like, you wouldn't think about it, but that's such I love that phrase.
Yeah. Well, and not everybody does that, right? That's why we had to name it, because like I didn't know it was a thing that not everybody did, but then we started talking about it and I was like, oh, they'd say, oh, I've been in your community for a while and I just noticed I threw something away, and I go, doesn't everybody? But no, they don't. So then we named it and now we teach it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a fun thing, right? It's a freebie.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's like, and seriously, y'all, like, how many of you right now are thinking of like 5 lipsticks that you could get rid of?
I'm sure I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of 5 specifically, which is why I can't. Yeah.
And not everything is like, sometimes you don't know if it's going to make the cut until you buy it. Right. Like what if it's clothes or it's the lipstick, sometimes you just have to try it and it just doesn't work. And I think if we can give ourselves permission that not everything is amazing and we can just like let it go and like go in peace without, just feeling so terrible about that, then that's a huge win.
Yeah, that is a huge win. I'm curious about this, and then we'll start segueing into like how we can find each other and get into each other's worlds. But I have some clients who will hold on to good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a client right now. I love her so much. She's like, she wants to clean out her pantry because she's like set her sights on her whole house now. Like we did her closet and now she's like the whole house. And she's like, I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat all the food in my pantry rather than donating. And I have to find meals to make with all of it first. And I was just like, why? Like I've been trying to coach her on it. But she's not the only one who's had thoughts like this. Like I have to use it all up rather than get rid of it. What would you say to those folks?
Okay. Two ways you could go, right? Like you could kind of say, would I buy this again? Like today I'm at the store. Am I buying, this, whatever. Right. And if the answer is no, then just let it go. Like, cause you're buying it every day you keep it, you're kind of rebuying it, taking up space in your pantry. It's taking up space in your head. You're feeling bad when you don't eat it. Like it's taking there's a cost every day, right? So that's one route. Or you can go the other route, which is like, okay, are you willing to put it on the menu this week? Like you have to use it this week, or you pick a day. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of what you did with me with the deadline. Are you willing? Because that's what I usually do. I'm like, oh, we really should eat this. And then I think, well, am I willing to use it this week? And usually the answer is no, really. That was my cop out. That was me like wanting to delay the decision. I think maybe this is interesting. I think when we are not willing to make a decision, we're trying to delay it. That's when the cop out happens.
Oh, that's good. You should see
Because
our faces right now if you're not watching the video. I could just see us both like, ooh, concepts, teaching, podcast, breaking this down. I think you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Because we think there's like a right and a wrong decision. And we don't want to make the wrong decision, so we want to wait. But you know what? There's like no wrong decisions on should I eat this or not. There's just not. Like we could just decide that we don't want to eat it, and it's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's okay to not eat everything. It's okay to not wear everything in the closet, right?
Yeah.
Or keep it.
Oh, this is so good. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's when we're trying to delay the decision when the cop out happens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because we're fearing our own judgment.
Right.
If I throw that out, I'm going to feel like, I'm not, like I'm being wasteful. And I don't want to feel that way because that's wrong. And I hate that. And then I'm going to like kick myself. Well, okay, just like stop that part.
Yeah. We can still make the decision and forego the mental ass whooping. Like that's optional, totally optional.
It is. And it takes a little practice, right? But that's okay. Let's get easier, right? Yeah.
It does get easier.
So
it does get
so
easier.
Good.
Friends. It gets easier. Okay. So Sarah, tell us how we can get into your world, learn more about you, what you got going on.
Yes. Okay. So you can find us all over the place at Decluttering Club on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Our website is thedeclutteringclub.com. We have amazing things going on all the time. So just go and look me up on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
How about you?
She has really great videos full of like great advice. You can go watch her reels. I was like binging them the other night. I was like, oh, there she is. I love it. So definitely go check her out. And you can enter my world by going to Instagram to Judith Gaton on Instagram, all one word. And you go to judithgaton.com, or you can listen to my podcast, Style Masterclass.
Love it. Love it. Judith, you have changed my life, and we've only been friends for a little while, but I'm not exaggerating. Like I adore you. I think your work is so important, and it every day I get dressed, you are with me. So I thank you for your work.
Ditto, my friend. Like seriously, since our haunted mansion conversation, I was like, we gotta do something together. We have to do something together. So I'm glad this worked out. This was perfect.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, would you leave us a review? It would really help us get the word out. To start your decluttering journey, go to thedeclutteringclub.com. That is declutteringclub.com. We'll see you next time.